Hi, I'm Timothy. I'm one of the many knowledge experts that you'll find at Micro Center stores. Here, let me show you something very useful that you can do with your Windows computer. Have you ever tried to build your own website but got lost when they told you that you needed to FTP your files to the server? What is this FTPing that could easily be an acronym for Feel the Pain? After this lesson, you'll find out everything you need to make FTP or File Transfer Protocol a painless part of your computing life. In this video, we'll talk about how to use Windows as a way to access an FTP server, the proper way to form an address to connect to the server, how to transfer files, the limitations of Windows as an FTP client, and finally, what alternatives can be used instead of Windows if you need greater control over your site. In order to begin, we need to make sure that Windows is set up to handle FTP sessions. To do this, we will first open Internet Explorer. In my case, I am using version 8. However, this should still work if you are using an older version down to at least version 6. After opening Internet Explorer, we will go to Tools and then Internet Options. In the box that opens, go to the Advanced tab. And what we are looking for is scrolling to the browsing section is making sure that Enable FTP folder view outside of Internet Explorer is checked. So again, if it's not checked, make sure you put a check by it by clicking on it. And then after that, go ahead and click Apply if you made changes, or if it's already checked, kind of like mine, go ahead and just press OK. Now we can close Internet Explorer. We are now going to proceed to go to our desktop, and from here we are going to create a shortcut that will be linked to our FTP server. So first we will create a new shortcut by right-clicking on the desktop, and after that we are going to go to New and we're going to select Shortcut. Now what's going to happen now is that we are going to need the information that our web hosting provider has provided to us. In this case, our server name is ftp.cyberdale.net with a user called Microcenter and its password, Dallas, Texas. And the website that we're hosting in this imaginary solution will be mywebsite.com. So in the shortcut, we are going to type in explorer.exe. This is the Windows browser shell that we're calling, and we are going to give it parameters. So in this case, it would be ftp:// the username, which is Microcenter, and after that we're going to put a colon. The colon is to break apart the username and the password. So after the colon, we will put in our password, in this case Dallas, Texas, and after that we'll put an @ sign. This @ sign will tell us where this username and password, which server are we connecting to. So the server name would be ftp.cyberdale.net. So as you can see here, we have put in the various fields from our text document. Again, these credentials are provided by our hosting provider, or you get to set them up with your hosting provider. So again, the breakdown on the format will be ftp:// the username, password, whatever it is, at whatever the server is. So that's the way we're going to go about this. After that, we're going to hit Next, and it's going to ask us to name the shortcut. In this case, I will say mywebsite.com FTP server. And then we're going to click Finish. Now that the shortcut is created, we are going to use it to connect to our FTP server. So there's our shortcut, and I'm just double-clicking, and if we did everything correctly, it should pop up a window. And there it is. The resulting window that has popped up will allow you to see folders and files if they are present. It's just like any other normal Windows Explorer view of a drive. So I'll give you an example of another Explorer view is just like this. So what we see here is a folder called www, and this is typical of many web servers. So anything that we put inside this folder will be publicly seen on the web. So let's go in and let's go get some of our web pages. For this project, I'm going to use some pre-made files from a previous backup. So for example, if we have an index.html, which is a web page, this one we just need to drag and drop, and that will give us the page that people will see. By default, on a web page, any type of folder it goes into, if there is no file listed, it will pull up the index.html or index.htm or index.php, and you get the picture. It will always go after the index. In the same way that we can just copy and paste or drag and drop files to the FTP server, we can also likewise just rename them or, of course, delete them. In addition, we're also able to create new folders, and that's just one method that will keep us organized. And those are the basic operations that you can use using Windows as an FTP client. There are times, however, when using Windows as an FTP client is inadequate. These are the times when you deal with web applications where file permissions need to be set. With Windows as an FTP client, this is not possible. This is where using an alternative FTP client would be required. So some of the more featured clients include FileZilla, SmartFTP, CuteFTP, WiseFTP, and FlashFXP. Here's a quick example using FileZilla, a free FTP client. So in this case, we don't have to actually form that URL, that address, but we can just simply put in the information. And we used Micro Center, and the password again was Dallas, Texas. And port, if we're using the default port, which is 21, we don't need to enter anything. So that's why when we made addresses earlier, there is also a way to put a port, but that's usually not used, and it's just very rare that you'll run into something like that. So we just press enter, and there we go, we are connected. We can still see the same things like the www directory, as well as the images folder we created, as well as the index page. And here is what I talked about permissions. If we right click and go to file permissions, we could set the various permissions by checking different boxes. And as you can see with the checking, it actually will give a numeric value based on the file permissions. So that's just a brief showing you what Windows cannot do and what you would need a full-featured FTP client to do. In this video, we talked about how to use Windows as a way to access an FTP server, the proper way to form an address to connect to the server, how to transfer files, the limitations of Windows as an FTP client, and what alternatives can be used instead of Windows if you need greater control over your website. Thanks for joining us, and this is Timothy signing off this Micro Center presentation.